Shasta, and Joshua Tree. Can you expand on those experiences and tell us about them?
Well, we began doing more of the CE5 contact work. And of course, one track we're trying to resolve the secrecy issues. The other, we keep the process going where I'm training people to become ambassadors to other planetary systems and the CE5 contact protocol. So we began having amazing contact. And if you look at the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind documentary, it's the tip of the iceberg of all the things that happen. But we started having more and more direct contact with various civilizations up on Mount Shasta, in Creston, Colorado, in Joshua Tree. And these were amazing events where mass witness craft would come over, would be signaling to us, objects would partially materialize in the field with us, people would have direct ET contact experiences, and on and on. Now, as that's going on, well, of course, at the same time, we're working to try to resolve this crisis inside the government that's really transnational outside the government in many ways, at least for most government officials. And those events began to be more and more noted by the intelligence community because they're monitoring those things. And they certainly knew when we would have an ET object that would appear, and they don't have to fly in from space. They can just materialize, quote unquote, in this area of space where you are, and often even come up from underground. And we have systems in space that can track objects
Quantum
25
physics.
miles into the Earth, by the way. So those were being noted, and then often were attempts to interfere with it. So like at Mount Shasta, we had an event take place where there were aircraft overhead as soon as we had a contact event where a massive object that was out in space, it was so large that it was seen from Vancouver all the way to LA that we had vectored in. And as it came over, we signaled to it and it turned and signaled to us. To give an idea how big it was way up in space, but it was 2/3 the size of the triangle in Pegasus. And as I said, so large it was seen up and down the West Coast. And it came when we were doing this contact protocol that included a meditation and prayer for the healing of the earth. And so we knew it was the ET saying, yes, this is exactly what we want to join you with energetically and in consciousness.
Right.
But then immediately afterwards, we had helicopters over us, we had jet fighters over us, we had all kinds of people, we had boots on the ground, people that we had night scopes could see coming through the woods in camo, coming off a military vehicle. So there was all this sort of cat and mouse game going on around that time, and there were some really nasty directional energy weapons that were pointed at me and a small team that went to White Sands, where we were doing a CE5 contact to sort of clear the Akashic record, the energy of what had happened at the atomic bomb site near
The Akashic record is your life
So these things
view.
began to sort of escalate. So all of that contact, as we were training more and
Library.
more thousands of people all over
Yeah.
the world to make contact, the intelligence community was engaging in all kinds of counter measures. And especially with people who were really starting to dig into this. I think that it was a time from 1991 till 1998. I had been approached every year by a man if I wanted protection. And I said no, and that was a mistake. So in 98, we corrected that after some really tragic events happened to my team. And that's been resolved since then. Since 1998, no one has been threatened, no one's been harmed. But there was a time there that was very difficult. And as we were moving this forward, there were some rather nasty folks who have directional energy weapons and other means to induce disease states. Now, these are non-local, they're what are called scalar, faster than the speed of light. And that can be used to heal. They can also be used to harm. And so pretty much the same month, Congressman Schiff, who was really pushing on the Roswell event, and myself, and Sherry Adamak, who helped me at the very beginning of the CE5 contact effort in 91. She got involved, all got aggressive metastatic cancers and died. I didn't die. I almost did. I had a scar here and there. And I had metastatic malignant melanoma, which is the deadliest of all.
What?
And I was supposed to die first. We thought would. But it turned out Sherry passed away. So, and then tragically, just before that, in the mid-90s, the former director of the CIA, Bill Colby, had approached a member of my board and was going to offer one of these, a solid state, 0-point free energy device, and about $50 million in seed funding to get it out. And I didn't like the fact that at the time, I was told it was a senior intelligence official. I didn't know it was Mr. Colby, the CIA Director Colby, who was retired. He was getting up in years. He was fed up with the secrecy. He was sickened by what was happening to the planet. But I thought it should have been a very public event, because if it's done in the public, as I said early on, I was told by a early intelligence guy, get on Larry King, get on these shows or you're a dead man walking, I'm quoting. So I didn't like the way it was this sort of skullduggery, but that's the way he wanted to do it. So the week he was supposed to meet with a member of my board, that meeting never happened. They found him floating south of DC in the Potomac River. And his close friend who set it up told me, yes, that was a wet works. Now his son thought he committed suicide. Other people said it was a boating accident. You know, it was a death-defying period. And it was taught me that, you know, if someone offers you help, you take it, even if it seems unsavory. So what was put in place at that time, after this, the person who came to me every year offering, he called it executive protection. So we have had no problem since then, since 1998. We had to also change directions. We were trying to do this through the White House and the Congress. I concluded those people are never going to do this properly. And that was the inception of the Public Disclosure Project that people know about. But in the event, the night that Sherry Adamek passed away, she introduced me to this ET named Kindness. And Kindness, I call her Kindness, perfectly round head, not like our shape, and no pinna, no outside ears, very fine featured, beautiful eyes. And she was introduced to me by Sherry from the spirit world, and this was an ET that could go, of course, transdimensional.
Do you want to go sit down?
3D.
You can walk in front of it.
When they're transdimensional, they're very close to the astral spirit world. That ET and her craft has appeared at every single CE5 contact event since 1998.
Wow.
Without exception.
Incredible.
Yeah, beautiful.
So what is the connection between Kindness and your team?
She is a senior interstellar diplomat. In those civilizations, it's your intelligence and your spiritual development and your empathy and all those. So when you talk about interstellar diplomats and people who contact humans from other star systems, that is the criterion. She's a very senior one in this sort of interplanetary coalition. I never got her proper name because to me she was like an avatar, a perfect kindliness. So kind. And so I just call her Kindness. We have many videos and pictures of the craft.
The craft is kindness, or is she counting kindness in the craft?
In the craft.
In the craft,
Yeah. But
okay.
the craft is conscious with the awareness of the pilot.
Yeah. Pilot, yeah.
We'll get into that later, you know,
Okay.
the integration of these technologies with consciousness and thought.
So Dr. Greer, you mentioned the Disclosure Project earlier and the things that led up to it almost coming into fruition. And then all of a sudden in 2001, you put out the Disclosure Project, but something happened during that event. Can you tell us what it was?
Yes, I mean, interestingly, the public doesn't know this. The entire event was jammed for the first hour, trying to get out of the National Press Club event, I'm sure by operatives within these USAPs. And as I mentioned, our people had seen them on the roof the night before in the wee hours. And we also had a great deal of interest in the major media. I mean, but I found out that the intelligence community contacted all the major networks and says, don't play this again, take this down, et cetera, and so on. Which is why it was up on CNN and Headline News and various things, and then dropped. And I got very detailed information on why that was torpedoed. Because it wasn't just, oh, there's a UAP, we don't know where they are, where they're coming from, or what they are. It was very detailed information. You know, people who had been involved with the ET bodies, on the reverse engineering, on all kinds of, you know, very specific information, all of which were credentialed people who had had top secret clearances, et cetera, and so on. So, in the way, it was a transition phase from us deciding in '98 that, late '97, '98, when I was, you know, battling for my life, Sherry was, that, you know, we needed to take this to the people. Now, here's why. I needed from '91 or '92 until '98 to establish the criminal, illegal nature of these projects. And this is an important step. We created something called an unless otherwise directed memo. And that's a military, my military advisor said, look, you know, you have to, you know, do something formally where you notify the heads of all the agencies and government departments that you're going to go forward based on an assessment. And that unless otherwise directed, my assessment is correct. That's what a UNOD letter is. It's a very specific tactic. And so we created this, and it's we have it on our website, and it went to the heads of all the agencies, return receipt requested, we have a record of it. And in this letter it says, here's our assessment. I have briefed the following officials that we've talked about, and members of Congress, and senior people around the president, and they have been denied access to these projects. Therefore, those projects are illegal, they're unconstitutional, and the national security oaths and non-disclosure agreements that all personnel have signed are null and void. We're vitiating them, we're vacating them. And unless otherwise directed, by the end of January 1998, we're going to move forward with top secret documents that are not declassified, top secret witnesses who did sign non-disclosure agreements, and exonerate them, and they cannot be prosecuted under any of the laws of the United States because the projects are illegal, and an illegal project cannot use the law to defend itself. Now, to this date, as of the sitting right here, no one from the government, even an unacknowledged special access project, has said, you're wrong. Because if they said I was wrong, I'll say, prove it. I can take it to court with our constitutional attorneys and prove the opposite. That in fact, these are illegal, rogue, unconstitutional projects. So at that point, we wanted to give them a little bit of time. Then we organized the 2001 National Press Club event, and that was, a big undertaking.
Sorry, Nicole. Sorry, Nicole.
It's kind of like we're planting seeds for trees that are in a grove and never sit in the shade of these trees. So how do you feel about
We'll
that?
try
What do you
this
think
again.
is going to happen, and how many people do you think are going to be able to see this come to fruition?
Well, actually, the false disclosure is happening right now. The actual disclosure we did already. I mean, we have hundreds of hours of videotape. On my YouTube channel, there's 70 top secret witnesses. The books, Unacknowledged